Chasing happiness, running through the rain, turning all the little things into something great. With every heartbeat, we're finding our way. This is the moment, today's the day.
Welcome back to another episode of Chasing Happiness. Today we are discussing parental judgments. Chloe!
I think there's been a lot of times probably in both our parent journeys that we've faced a lot of judgment. But I know for myself, probably a lot of it would have stemmed from being a young mom. Yeah, so I kind of would have faced judgment from the very start because I was 21 when I would have had Dahi. And I think at that time, I didn't realize how bad it would have been, but I was a young mom, and people still to this day perceive young moms in a specific way. So I feel like I faced a lot of judgment from the very start because in a lot of people's eyes, like I wasn't ready, which to an extent I wasn't, but I still was able to step up and be a mom. And once I had him, but I think that people just perceived that I wouldn't be able to do it. So I felt like a lot of the time I had to prove that I was able to.
Like, do you think it was judgment just because of your age, or do you feel like it was the way you parent or specific things?
I feel like probably it was just my age start to it because like when they're babies, I don't think people realize what kind of a parenting style you may have. I think that kind of comes nearly when they're older and the whole discipline, punishing, that kind of thing comes into play. So I think at the start,
I'm not rolling my eyes at you. I'm rolling my eyes because I just hate the word.
Yeah, it's just, I don't like it either. But I think that because you don't see that when they're tiny, I think it was just purely because I was quite young. And again, like people had this like preconceived idea of, oh, she won't be able to do it because of age, or young moms, and you're like, that doesn't make a difference. So I feel like at the very start, you're kind of nearly trying to prove that you can do it and that you are like a good mom regardless of age. Sometimes I felt like even like when you'd be out and you'd be feeding your child and stuff, they'd be like, oh, like, look at you, that kind of, I don't know, or if you're out in the shop or they were crying, I felt like everyone was like looking at you, and then when
they do that.
Everyone stares, and it always baffles me. I'm like, what do you say? Everyone does it. Like, but at the start, I was like, oh, I am a young mom. Like, everyone's looking at me because I am a young mom and everyone knows, But you get over that too once you realize every single child ever that has walked this earth has had meltdowns, has cried, has done everything, and people staring are just, they're just painful. Like, I just don't understand. People stop and stare at you.
Yeah, either come over and help
or turn away.
Don't acknowledge it. Yeah,
I don't get it. So I feel like even now, sometimes when I say, like, I'm 28 and I have a 6-year-old, they're like, oh, a 6-year-old? And I'm like, yeah, I was young having my kids. They're like, oh. And then I think there's a whole other side of it that you are just like people think that you're a specific kind of person because you had your kids quite young. So there's that other aspect of it. Not even the way that you parent, just you as a person.
Yeah.
People nearly look down on you. So I felt like that for a lot. Even now, like I say that, like if people ask about my kids, it's like you have to face the judgment even now.
And the funny thing I think with age is, I get it like that now more people are in their 30s.
Older,
just because of the way life is. But if you just go back a handful of years,
everyone was young.
Everybody was young. Like, you nearly wanted to be a young parent.
Yep.
So what does it matter? Like, the way I've always described it to anybody, if anybody has ever asked what age I think is the right age to have kids, I'm like, when you're ready to give up your life for another human.
Yeah.
Like, when you're ready to literally be like, you're the most important thing on the planet.
Yeah.
Don't care what age you are. That's when you're ready. I don't think being 21 or being 31 or being 41 should matter.
See, I think people look at like people in their 20s or young, like 21, 22, as they haven't a clue about life. They don't know anything. They don't, like, as you say, if you're ready to do it and commit to being a parent, then you're ready. Because I know people that are in their 30s and they're still not ready to have kids and they're having them, whereas I had to mature young, which made me step up and made me do it, even though I was only 21.
Yeah.
So it's like when you get judgment for that, you're like, how does that make sense? Like, I gave up my whole entire 20s to do this and to commit and to be it. Just because I was young doesn't mean that I'm a bad mom. Or it doesn't mean that I can't do it.
And like, for some people, I feel like for me specifically, I don't feel like I'm any more mature now than I would have been 10 years
Yeah.
ago. You know what I mean? I actively choose to not mature.
Mhm.
The only difference is that obviously for me, that I was in a relationship, that I was renting, you know, so I had a house.
Yeah.
But other than that, like if I had them 10 years ago, it wasn't going to change the kind of mom I was.
Yeah.
And I don't think for you, it was going to change the type of mom you are.
See, I think getting that news when I was the age I was made me mature probably a lot quicker than like stereotypically the people of that age would. You know, I feel like sometimes now when you look at 28-year-olds, like they're not like me, you know, because I am a mom of two. Like I have to step up and do it. When some people are still out living their life, and that's okay too. But it shouldn't mean that like you have to face people thinking that you're not able to do it just because you are a certain age.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think I would have changed my parenting ways or changed what kind of a parent I am. If I was 21, 31, 41, I think I still would have been the same kind of person and the way I do it, you know.
We parent very similarly.
Yeah.
Do you think that do you know the way there's like gentle parenting, passive parenting, all of these? Do you think that I don't think there's a label for our style. Do you think that
no, because I
we
feel
can
like
go in a category?
I feel like we're in the middle.
Yeah.
Like a little bit. I feel like we differ probably in some things too. I feel like I probably would be a little bit more, I don't want to say the word strict because I feel like when you say strict, but I probably would have more set things that I do with my kids versus what you
can
do.
go harsh. It's okay. I don't care.
Like my kids would have like set routine, like bedtime and everything like that, whereas your kids wouldn't. So you're freer in that sense, whereas I would still stick to like a not a strict routine. Again, I hate the word strict, but like I've had them in a routine since they've been small, and I still continue to do it just because it's what works for me. But that doesn't mean that it works for everyone.
And I think that that's like the good thing about our friendship. We have parts that are similar, parts that are different, but you never make me feel bad. Like
no,
my kids go to sleep when they're tired. Do you know what I mean? And it's not that we haven't tried. It just doesn't work for us. By the time Owen gets home, for him to spend time with the kids, for us to have dinner as a family, all of those things. If I'm putting them down at 7, half 7, they're not going to see their dad ever. It's not going to suit our lifestyle. So obviously when they're tired, they go to bed. They're not up till 12 o'clock all the time. No, but they're not like, you know, most nights they are going to be in bed at 9, half 9. That's what suits them. They're not big sleepers, never have been, even if you remember as a baby. But you've never been like, oh, well, my kids go to sleep at like half 7, 8. Why aren't your kids, like, why are your kids still awake? You just get, this is what works for my family. There's no judgment. And I think that that's a thing that society as a whole needs to see. You can't look at the children and just decide this one thing is going to fit them all. Because it's not. What works for you works for you. It's like, not going to work for me.
Like the way that you do it would not work for me at all because I just know because I do it on my own when they're with me. Obviously, like I co-parent and stuff. So if I didn't have the break in the evening, like when they go to bed, like around 8 or whatever, if I didn't have those few hours to like catch up and do the things I need to do, then I physically wouldn't be able to like do it all, you know, because when they're with me, like I'm on 100% as a parent. I don't have an out, you know, I don't have anyone to hand them away to. But then, like you say, it works for your lifestyle and the life that you live. And that's okay too. That doesn't mean that like I'm doing it right, you're doing it wrong, or that any of us are right or wrong. But I feel like there is this preconceived idea with just society in general that you have to do parenting a specific way or your kids are going to turn out a specific way or they're not going to. I don't get it. Like I just don't get it at all.
I'm laughing when you say that because even with me, I'm a mummy mum. I'm like, I love them up in my arms. I love them sleeping up on top of me. I love the cuddles. I love all of it. But the amount of people from when they were small even, that it was very much, if you keep them up in the arms now, you're going to spoil them. They're never going to want to go down. Have you met my children? My children love being away from me. You know what I mean? Like they don't, I'm there when they need me, but they know that, you know, so they don't need me all the time. Like they're gone. They love being independent. They love going out, doing their own things. Like I think the only time Morgan would have struggled at all leaving me was starting preschool.
But I think that's a big change for any child.
And 100% for him. Like we had never separated. And now I'm pawning you off to another adult that you've never met. Of course it's going to be a big thing. And he wasn't the only one. He probably took an extra like week or two. But every child was crying. You know what I mean?
My kids would have cried non-stop. Like even starting play school, one of them ran off. One of them I would have had to stay with, or like nearly pull him off me to get him into school. It's just life. Like kids struggle. Like some kids find it harder, some don't. Like some are more independent, some want you there. And again, it's a big life change for them, because like that, they're probably with a primary parent for a lot of their life, and then suddenly a big change. That doesn't mean that because you parent a specific way that's why that happened.
Yeah, and that was my thing, because like so many people would have been coming up and it's like, it's because you held them too much. It's because you did.
How?
No, I didn't. They are so small for such a small amount of time.
Yeah.
I didn't hold them enough.
It passes so fast.
Yeah,
though.
you know, so I like, to me, and I always say that to you, I don't feel like I've ever had enough time with them or I've cuddled them enough or anything. Because I know, like, in Lorgan's kind of getting to the age now, but definitely in another year or two, he's literally going to be like, why are you touching me? Don't even acknowledge that you're my mom. Just you go in the corner.
Yeah.
You know?
I see it even now with my eldest. Like he's getting to a point where he's quite independent. Like it's great. Like because you go through, I think, a few years of them like needing you all the time.
Yeah.
And I say that it's great now. Like even like you can walk down the street and you're not being like, oh my god, he's got over there. Like, but like he's grown, and I'm like, oh my god, like he is grown now. Like that baby, as I call it, is gone. Like, and it's not coming back, and you just have to accept that.
So speaking of them being babies,
yes,
how you didn't neither of us breastfed, 2 different reasons, 2 different stories.
Yeah.
Did you get judgment for choosing to not breastfeed?
100%. Because I think that I was so young having them, I just never felt the need or want, if I'm honest. And I feel like that people are like, oh my god, you didn't want to do that for your kids? I didn't. I'm plain and simple. There was no part of me that wanted to breastfeed at all. Like I could not explain it. It just gave me the heebie-jeebies. Not for anyone else, because I'm completely cool whatever way you want to feed your child. Go for it. But I knew for myself I could not cope with the idea of doing that at all. And I remember at the start, I think I was quite young too, obviously, that I didn't cop that. For my second now, I was well more aware that I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Like I didn't do it for my first, don't want to do it for my second. And I was able to stick with that. And I think I was able to stand up for myself a bit more. But for the first time round, it was like older midwives that I would have been meeting. And there was so much judgment because they were like, you're breastfeeding. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And they're like, oh, you haven't heard about it. Like, we haven't explained it. And I'm like, no. So they'd give me leaflets and booklets and stuff. And I'm like, that is not going to change my mind. I know just there's no part of me that wants to do it. And then even after having him, like it was all the way through pregnancy, every appointment I went to, I was having to explain myself over and over again. And then after I had him, I can remember there was a young midwife. She came in. She was lovely because, again, 21 and suddenly you have a baby and you're like, what do I do now? She came in and she was lovely. She's like, this is how you swaddle them and stuff. And then this older midwife came in and she took him out of my hands and she was like, you haven't him swaddled. And turns out my child hated being swaddled. So it wasn't that he just would wiggle out of it. Like he hated it, never did it. He hates having blankets. It just wasn't his kind of thing. And she took him and she was so rough. And I know you can be kind of rougher. She was like, she wrapped him up and she was like, breastfeeding. And I was like, no, bottles. And I was after giving birth, so I was completely like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, and I was so upset. And she was like, not breastfeeding. And I was like, no. And she's like, why not? And I was like, because bottles. And then we were all just kind of sitting there. And I was like, she left the room eventually. And I was like, was that rude? Or was she just over the top? Or was that just me? But there is so much judgment because I think people feel like it's a thing that you have to do or should do or want to do. And I never wanted to. And I think that was, I just...
No, because I would have also got the judgment. But for me, as you know, I wanted to. Yeah. Like I was adamant there was never going to be a bottle. It just wasn't happening. I didn't have bottles because I was so adamant I was going to do it. And then I think, having talked to the midwives and stuff after the fact, they're putting it down to, I had a big baby and a long labour. My body was not able to make enough milk for him at the start. And like we've gone to private lactation consultants, is that what they're called? Afterwards to speak about it and stuff. And they've all said the same thing, that I wasn't fueled because obviously they don't feed you much in labour in case you throw up. Yeah, I did. And then Lorgan's labour was very, very long. Like it was almost 2 full days. Yeah. So my body was exhausted. I wasn't sleeping. He just didn't want to get out. and then him being a bigger baby, I just wasn't fueled enough to create the milk that he needed to feed him. But then they did the worst thing they could have done, because he was a hungry baby, and they gave him a bottle. So from talking to lactation consultants, once the bottle was given,
that was it.
Yeah, he was going to inhale that. So there was nothing for me, to try and increase my milk supply.
Yeah, and since you couldn't like train him to...
so there was that. And then I was still trying to do it. I was still trying to pump to increase it myself and everything. And I ended up getting mastitis. But so bad that they wanted to re-hospitalize me, because I was like, I'm fine. I just, like, if he feeds, in my head, like, if he feeds, I'll get rid of the mastitis.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because when cows, I'm married to a farmer, when cows get mastitis, you don't milk them into the tank, but you have to try and squeeze out the infection, basically. I think he sprays them that. I don't actually know. So if this is wrong, I don't know. But I think that's what he does anyway from talking to him. So in my head, I was like, if I can squeeze out the infection, I can keep going. So literally, I don't remember going to that doctor's appointment. I know my mum brought me. And I know that I was so sick. I had such a high temperature that I wasn't with it at all. And the doctor literally was like, why are you putting pressure on yourself? Now, I do have a male doctor, but I love my doctor. And he was like, why are you putting your pressure on yourself? And I was like, I have to breastfeed. My mum breastfed, my sister breastfed, like my whole family, like, I have to do it. I have to. My child will, I think I had it in my head that I can't bond if I don't breastfeed, because it's what I came from.
But do you think that that's what, like, even through the appointments and the midwife appointments and
it was
just women in general and what you were surrounded with, that was that, like, preconceived idea that was...
it was massively, like, breast is best. They're getting all the nutrients. They won't get sick. They won't get anything. Like, you have to do this.
And if you're choosing not to, then you're letting your child out from the start.
To the point for me, like, the first bottle outside of hospital that Lorgan was given, when I kind of realised this isn't going to work. He had to be taken out of the room so that Owen and my mum could feed him, because I was like,
I can't do this.
I can't do this. I fail. Like, my body has let me down. I shouldn't be a mum. Like, that was I don't want to just say it was the pressure I'd put on myself, but I think like that. Every midwife I'd met along the way, breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is best. The milk is the best. The colostrum, golden milk or whatever they call it. Like, this is going to be
the best,
the best thing you can give your child. And I'm here trying. It's not happening. And it wasn't like we hired a lactation consultant. We paid privately for it. Like, we did everything.
It just didn't.
No. And then that had a ripple effect, because obviously I eventually was able to start feeding him bottles, but still feeling bad. I was fighting mastitis. I was exhausted. I was going through the hormones that everybody goes through. My body is still trying to come back to me. I was just so all over the place. But then I was never diagnosed with postnatal depression. It was only ever postnatal anxiety. But even the doctor feels like that came from the pressure that I had put myself under day dot. So by the time I got pregnant with my second, straight away, I felt it. I was like, literally, wasn't even morning sickness. I literally felt like I had to throw up, because I was like, are they going to put the pressure on me again? Because what if it fails again? What if I get sick again? What if I'm hospitalized and I'm taken away from my two children because they've decided? So I said it the very first appointment, but I'm harsher than you. Like, you don't tend to argue with me, because I get so harsh. So I knew the very first appointment I went in, I was like, I want it on the file. I want it big black writing across the front. Do not mention breastfeeding. Gave the first midwife the story of how bad it had gotten, how much, I hated my body for it, how much I felt like I failed as a parent, all because of everybody else's opinion. And I was like, I can't do it. I actually did hire another private lactation consultant. So I was like, look, I can try pumping. But the latch wasn't working. We couldn't get it to work. That turned into mastitis. I went through the story with her. So I did pump for the first 6 weeks on Caleb. Didn't latch. But it was never brought up to me, because the second they went breast, I went, nope, stop, let it go. You do it. And that was it, but I'd get narrowed. I'd walk out of appointments and everything like, I know my child's good. Shut up. And the thing is, looking back now, I laugh, because I have so many friends and stuff whose children are the same age.
Mhm.
The ones that have been breastfed were the ones that got sick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like Caleb did. Caleb got sick early, but it was nothing to do with being breastfed over bottle fed because he was actually on the breast milk when he was hospitalized.
Funny though, isn't it, that they force that opinion on you that if you don't do this, you're a bad mom, and if you don't do this, you're this. But fed is fed. Like you're not failing by feeding your child.
Exactly.
Regardless if it's through a bottle, if it's through whatever way you do it.
Caleb actually, if you remember, was being checked because of his weight.
Yeah.
While he was on my breast milk.
Yeah.
So we were topping it up with bottle milk because I still wasn't making enough. But he was actually, his weight dropped. He went from 75th percentile to 25th to 9th. There's nothing wrong with him.
No.
Second, he went on to solids and everything. He flew. But I just find it funny that we had no issue at all with Lorg.
Yeah. And
we had all the issues on Kale. And I'm not saying that it was because the breast milk. What that just proves my point of I couldn't create enough, and what I had clearly wasn't good enough to keep them healthy.
Yeah.
So what does it matter?
Doesn't. It's just that judgment that is forced upon us.
Yeah.
Instantly from the get-go.
Yeah.
Which just makes no sense.
No.
None.
Absolutely none. And it's the same, like for me, I co-sleep. That's another thing that everybody's like,
why?
Why'd you do that? That is so bad.
It's so dangerous. So this, so that.
Yeah, for who? Like, and I was very lucky. The midwife I met in hospital after giving birth the first time was so lovely and showed me how to have them in the bed, but in a safe way, where to put them, where to put the pillows, where to put myself, all of this. So I've just followed it through, but I'm like, it works best for all of us. Like when I was sick and I had to sleep in a different room so that they won't get sick, I couldn't sleep. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm so used to, I know where they are. I feel their feet. I know what's going on. And I'm like, if you're not in the bed and it's not bothering you, why are we having a discussion about it?
I just think things like that, full stop, shouldn't be anyone else's problem, or shouldn't be, anyone else shouldn't care. Like what you do, as long as the child is healthy and being looked after, is the main thing.
I think I said that to you when we were talking about this episode, that I feel like unless you feel like the child is
in danger,
being starved or anything like that, you shouldn't have an opinion.
No.
If you can see that they're happy, healthy and loved, shut your goddamn mouth.
Is that not the main thing? Like how you get there, or how they're raised per se, is not up for discussion, you know?
Yeah.
Unless you're the parent.
Exactly. Yeah. And like even with that, like me and Owen don't always agree on parenting styles. I am a very, 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 very chilled out, laid back parent.
I think that the way we're raised though has a lot to do with the way we parent.
Yeah.
Not even just me and you. I think for everyone, I feel like if you come from a specific type of parenting, that you're nearly programmed to think that that's the way you should do it.
Yeah.
You know?
See, I find it really hard to explain my parents' parenting style. Sorry, Mommy, if you're listening. Because I don't feel like they were strict, but they weren't not strict, if that made sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I never wanted to go home if I was intoxicated because I was like, they will kill me. You know, so obviously there was some element of strict, but I don't feel like it was as laid back as what I am either.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm kind of, I truly do believe that I'm going to learn more from them than they will learn from me.
Okay.
In the sense of, if I'm telling my boys, sit at the table, eat your dinner, I'm teaching them to never know when they're full. Because I'm force feeding them, literally. And like there is people that are doing it. You have to finish everything that's on their plate. You have to do this, you have to do that. We just put out a snack plate. You know, pick at that, eat what you want. If you're full, you're full. We do this thing, me and Lorgie, where I have to ring his tummy to see how full he is. You know what I mean? And I know when he's asking me, he's full. Because he'll only ever ask me when he's full. And I have to be like, oh, Mr. Tummy said if you can try one more spoonful, he's good then. You know? Or even like little things. If you're just watching children in general, I feel like just follow their lead and you're going to know what's happening.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm constantly going, no, you have to do this right now, and you have to do this right now, and you have to do this. They're learning, like even Lord now, he picks his chores at the start of the week, what he wants to do. Because he sees what I do and he sees what Owen does. So he might be like, oh, I want to wash the dishes tonight. You know? why can't he do that? Why do I have to go, no, you're doing the floor tonight?
Yeah.
You know, and I think when you fall into wanting to be too strict, you stop actually seeing what the child is capable of. And that's why I choose to be more laid back as a parent. I'm not going to leave him get in danger. He's not allowed to be nasty to people. He's not allowed, you know, hurt people or anything like that. But I also don't have anything very, very strict where I'm not seeing what he wants to do and what he's capable of and where his love lies.
I feel like I've seen, just even like from my teenage years and growing up, that my parents would have been, I think we always knew, like, we would have never like disrespected anyone, and we would have never like stepped out of line, but they were not strict. They were more like friends. Like growing up, they were like, yeah, we were cool. Like we never, like they say, we never cursed. We never did any of those like bad things. Because we just knew not to. Because like I never remember like shouting, roaring, like giving out like punishment, nothing. There was no slapping, nothing like that. But still, like we knew the right and wrong. We knew what not to do, and like we were good. So I feel like as a teenager and growing up, I've seen like friends that I would have had even in like secondary school that would have came from like strict parents, and then they did as much as they possibly could do to disrespect their parents. Because they were never allowed, because they were held at such a tight routine and constant, like they were just held in a bubble that they weren't allowed out of. That then when they got the chance to do it, they want to do everything.
Rebelled as much as they could.
And like, what good is that? Like, you know, so we may be judged because we're a little bit laid back as people would see us. But like, I would much rather sit and talk with my kids and discuss things and leave them have that little bit of leeway than have them be teenagers and being like, I'm going to do this now just to get back. Like, I think if you can instill that at a young age and all the way up, that you're considerate of your child and everything and anything that goes with that, and you hold that at a high regard all the way through their little years and into their teenage years, that I think you're just raising more understanding and better kids, like kids that aren't, not even better kids, like kids that aren't going to want to rebel and that. So I feel like the more judgment we face now, I don't know, I feel like it's better in the long run because I feel like we're doing what's right for our kids.
And I think we're also, because we're adults, we're able to just like, I switch off to the judgment. You're not in my house, you don't know my kids. And like, even for him in school, all of his report cards are how kind he is to other people, how much he cares about other people's emotions. Me being strict is just me teaching him, hide your emotion. Like, if you get angry, could you imagine me being like, don't you get angry? Why are you getting angry for? Stop that. You're not allowed to do that. As an adult, you're literally going to swear at me, tell me where to go, and probably never want to talk to me again. So why am I doing that with a child? You know? Whereas instead, we'd talk it out. We'd be like, what's wrong? What's going on? You know? Have the emotion. Own the emotion. Just don't take it out on your brother or your mom or anybody else. You know what I mean? But we discuss it through. Whereas to a lot of people, they're like, but he's acting out and he's being naughty. He's not. He's feeling something.
Punish him.
He doesn't understand what he is. I freaking hate that word. I hate that word.
I feel like even nowadays, I feel like there's a lot of it that people are like, oh, years ago, like that's why kids now have no respect for all that. The wooden spoon, or we would have slapped them and all this. How do you feel in a whole about all of that?
The person that lays a finger on my child, have your plot picked out because you're going into it.
But not even that. People that feel that you should smack your child.
I've actually had this discussion, argument, whatever you want to call it, with somebody before, where they thought I should. You know. I actually remember, though, I was telling, they weren't there for the story. I was telling them the story of my oldest having a little bit of a meltdown and just got on the floor in the shop. I'm not embarrassed. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? So I gave him a second to kick, scream, do whatever he needed to do. Then after a few minutes, came down and was like, what's going on? Like, why are we doing this? And I'm saying that, and they're like, oh, you just slapped them now, or actually used a naughty step. They'd do a lot better. And I was like, I don't like what you just did. Can I smack you and put you on a naughty step? They're like, why? I just had a difference of opinion. And I'm like, what's the difference? You know what I mean? Like, this meltdown was because I had said he couldn't have something. It's a difference of opinion. Why? Like, what am I teaching? What am I teaching? I'm teaching you lash out with aggression to get somebody to fall in line.
See, that never made sense to me. That, like, you know, I've seen parents do it, that their kid maybe lashes out and hits another child, like has a standard meltdown as a kid, like, which they're okay, they happen, lashed out, hit another child, and then the parent goes and hits them, like smacks them. And I'm like, so you've just given out to your child. This is always why I'm like completely against it. You've given out to your child for smacking. So the way you show your child not to smack or not to lash out another child is by doing the exact thing.
Same thing. Yeah, like, as an adult, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know?
How, like?
And again, you parent however works for you. But keep it to your goddamn self, because I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't need to have a discussion about it. If it works for you, great, fantastic, fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me. And I think it's the same for me with, like, doing the naughty step. All I'm teaching him is that I'm putting a label of naughty on you.
Yeah.
Where have I explained? And I know there is the pain. What's her face on telly? Super Nanny?
Yeah,
or whatever.
Nanny,
I know she's like brings them over to the corner. She's like, you're sitting here because you did this, and this. When you're 20 and you do something wrong, am I still putting you in a corner? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like this is my thing. I don't think of parenting as a today thing. I think of parenting as a long-term thing.
Yeah.
I want you to know that, like, I don't even go to Lord and you have to say sorry right now. You know, I'm like, what do you think we should do? How do you think we should fix this? You've upset your brother. How do we deal with it from here? You know, he decides when he's saying sorry. He decides when he's giving a cuddle, but he now knows I have to. He won't always do it immediately, but he will. Like, if he smacks me, I say smack, I mean like literally a little tap. Do you know what I mean? If he did that to me, I just have to look at him now. I don't even say anything.
And he knows.
And he's just like, I'm really sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Do you know? And then he'll give me a cuddle and we're cool. I let it go.
Yeah. How do you feel about these, not even parents, people that kind of force your kids to give them affection and the judgment that is faced when they don't?
You know how I feel.
Yeah. I'm just asking you for the podcast.
Oh my
for the
God,
people.
it wrecks my head. So we do it the same way, I'm sure. If I ask Logan for a hug and he says no, okay, cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
That's fine. I am not an affectionate person at all. I detest being touched.
Touch me.
Yeah. Detest it. It is the most horrendous feeling on the planet. I cannot describe how much I hate it.
I don't think we've ever hugged. Ever.
Your wedding day and my wedding day.
You can hug me the day I get divorced as well. So.
And even at that, it was like, pat. Leave. No, I don't like it. Like, I remember to the point when I came home after having Lorgan and my family members were hugging me.
Yeah.
And I was literally like, get off me. Just like give me a thumbs up. I understand what you mean. Leave me alone. So for me, as a person that actively detests being touched or having people in my space or in my bubble, it literally is too much. It's overstimulation. How do I know my child doesn't feel that? So why would I force him?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to force myself to hug you. Why would I force him? And I feel like if you're using blackmail techniques, so if you're going,
oh, I'll be so sad if I don't get a cuddle.
Yeah, I have him taught, and he does use it. I'm not in control of your emotions. And he says it the whole time. So if somebody was like, oh, give me a cuddle now or I'll be sad. Not all the time, he's 3, but a lot of the time he will turn around. He's like, I'm not in control of your emotions. To kind of reiterate, if you're sad because I don't want to give you a hug, I would be talking to somebody about that, because there's something wrong there.
Yeah, if you're sad, a 3-year-old won't hug you.
Yeah. And I also think that if you're forcing them, my opinion only, you're setting them up to never know what their boundaries should be. So then what if somebody is doing it in an inappropriate way? If you've always gone, no, you have to be affectionate, you have to do this, you have to do that. How do they know this is inappropriate, this shouldn't be allowed? You know?
I always do it with my boys, like for leaving. I'm like, do you want to go give them knuckles? Because that would be what my boys would do. And like most of the time they'll do it. Do you want to? And if they don't, then like, grand, we don't do it. Like, I'm not going to be like, you have to hug every person before we leave here. Again, that would just make me uncomfortable. So like, I'm not going to force my child if they don't want to. Again, I feel like we probably will face a lot of judgment from this episode. Just I love that the episode is about judgment, but I feel like this will bring a lot of judgment on us because I feel like when we speak about it, people presume that we just leave our kids
run
off.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I think for a long time, I felt like I had to defend how I parented.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I don't
No.
care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the people who have met my children know what my children are like, know how, like, do they act up? Yes, they're 3 and 1. They're going to have meltdowns. Do your kids act up? Yes, they're going to have meltdowns. They're young, but they're not bad children.
No.
They're children trying to figure out life like the rest of us.
Yeah.
So if you want to judge me, cool. You don't know me. You don't know my child. I don't care about your opinion. You know what I mean? And I think that people just need to keep that to themselves. Like, why are you so concerned with what I'm doing?
I feel like there'd be a lot less pressure on parents as a whole if people just kept it themselves.
Yeah.
Because I feel like as parents, not even just as moms, as for parents in any kind of regard, I feel like we constantly face judgment. And I feel like it just puts a level of pressure on us to be a specific kind of way. Whereas if people just stopped and let people do what they need to do for their own kids, then it would just be a lot easier as a whole to be a parent.
Exactly. I also feel like as well, though, with a lot of the judgments, I'm like, why are you concerned about that?
What's the point? What is the point?
You know, like even with my friend that I was telling you about, she was dropping off her daughter to school. And I can't remember the full story, but basically her son, who is about to turn 3, said something and then used the word knickers instead of underpants.
Okay.
And there was another parent there and was like, he shouldn't be calling him knickers. He's a boy. He's not a girl. And she texted me because she was like, what do your, like, you have boys, what do your boys get? And I'm there. I was answering her, but I'm still stuck on the, why did that trigger you? Like, why was that a thought process in your brain of, this is incorrect parenting? He's a little boy who at the time would have been, I'm not 100% sure, I want to say like barely 2-ish. But he's a boy. He knows what he's on about.
Yeah.
His mum knows what he's on about. His sister knows what he's on about. Why is that word triggering to you? And if that is the thing that you're concerned about, I'm now concerned about you.
It's kind of laughable, really, that bothered that person that amount that they have to. My kids are 6 and 3, and they always joke. Now, in a funny way, they say knickers all the time.
Yeah.
Like if I'm taking a picture of them, they'll smile and they'll say knickers. I don't know why they do it, but they do it. They just started doing it. But I don't get that. Like, what does a word have to have anything to do with the way you parent?
Yeah.
That there is no shouldn't. It's a word.
Yeah. And that's what I mean about the judgment. I feel like we live in a world currently where it's okay to have an issue
or to comment
with everything.
Yeah.
With everything. And as I said, like, I'm saying no to punishment. I'm saying no to a bold step, bold corner, whatever you want to do. I'm saying no to all that. But I'm saying it for my kids. If you chose to parent like that, am I going to agree with you on it? No, because it's not something I would do. Am I going to tell you you shouldn't if it's what works for your kids?
No.
Also no. Because it's not me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, just let people freaking live. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't understand it. And even from reaching out to different parents before this episode, doing polls, asking questions and everything, everybody nearly had the exact same thing. It was, we co-sleep. We didn't co-sleep. I breastfed. I bottle fed. I use this phrase to explain this. I don't use. So basically, no matter what I do, I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Cool. Then don't give me your opinion on it, because if I'm doing it wrong anyway, let me be happy in my little bubble of wrongness. You know what I mean?
Actually, you just triggered something in me when you were saying like the phrase. I actually have started with my kids. Not started, but I kind of became more aware before of using like the right terminology when describing their bodies.
Yeah.
And my youngest is 3, so he thinks it's hilarious. He's learned these new words and he's going around saying it. And since he started to, people have been like, who taught him that? Why did you teach him that? And I was like, because it's the right word. I'm like, I'm not doing it so I can get giggles out of my child. And I'm like, I'm doing it because now that when they start school, I'm pretty sure they learn from quite a young age anyways.
Yeah, and I think that it's a good thing. Like, you know, I teach my kids as well. I think it's a good thing. I'm not 100% sure. I think with schools, it's also from a safety point of view of if it's something inappropriate happens, you can explain it correctly.
And that's what I've been saying to people as well. I'm like, you just don't know in the world that we live in what could possibly happen. But I know that my 3-year-old, he's going around, and it is funny when he does say it. But everyone's like, who taught him that? Why did you teach him that? And I'm like, I did. And then there's another part. It was you actually taught me it, really. That when we get our periods, that you taught your children that you have red bees. I don't know whether you want me to say that.
No, that's fine.
I started doing that as well, because for ages I didn't know how to explain it to my child, because they'd find like the sanitary towels and stuff. And then I started explaining that I have red bees. So now they come up to me and they'd be like, is this for your red bees, mom? And I'd be like, yeah, that's it, because it's an easy way to explain to a child.
Yeah, and at an age of, like, my oldest is 3. I'm not going to turn around and be like, well, the lining of my entire uterus is shedding.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not appropriate, because I have had people call me out and that and be like, but you're lying to them. And I'm like, I'm not. I tell him once a month, mommy gets red wee-wees, so she has to wear a nappy.
Yeah.
What more do you want me to tell a 3-year-old? You know what I mean? He understands this. But like, I even find that funny when I'm shopping. If he's like, oh, do you need nappies? He'll scream it at me.
Yeah.
And if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. But the amount of other people, usually females,
makes them uncomfortable.
They turn around and look, and I'm like, you went through this. What is uncomfortable? Or like you said, with using the correct terminology, I've had people being like, oh my God, they shouldn't be saying that. And I'm like, what about that word makes you uncomfortable? You know what I mean? Like, do you not have these bodily parts?
But again, I think we put so much emphasis on a word. It is a word. Again, it does not affect the way you parent. You are just teaching your child what you are comfortable teaching your child.
Yeah.
Full stop. Like, they're going to learn these things as they get older. There's no point sugarcoating or not telling a child or lying to a child, because they're going to learn as they get older. So like you said, in an age appropriate way, why does it matter what I teach them or I don't?
Exactly.
Teach them, you know?
But I also think that if you're showing them from a young age, my opinion, I feel like I have to say that throughout this episode, if you're teaching them from a young age to be uncomfortable with these words, or like for us with boys, if we're teaching them that, oh, I'm uncomfortable talking about my period, you should be uncomfortable talking to me about it. How are they ever going to know that this is something that's so normal that they can be comfortable with it? You know, like, I know guys my age, and if I'd be like, I'm just getting cramps or something, they're like, I don't need to know. I don't, because you were taught that it's an uncomfortable subject. I don't want that. I want them to know we talk about everything, we talk about anything, because then if they're going through something, they can come to me. You know, like if they eventually have a girlfriend and they come back and they're like, oh, do you know, she was saying she'd cramps or whatever, like, I knew to get X, Y, and Z because you taught me, as opposed to being like, I can't come here for a week.
I don't want to,
like, if you get married to a female, you have to live with it. So suck it up when you're a young one. You know what I mean? No.
I think bottom line, I think our whole thing is we're doing what's right for our kids. Judgment or not, whatever we're facing. And what you do for your kids, as long as the child is happy and healthy.
Healthy and safe, I think,
is the main thing.
Yeah. And also, if you can see somebody else's child is happy, healthy, and safe, if you're not doing something to help them,
shut your mouth.
Just shut your mouth. You're not doing it at all. You know, because you saying it isn't going to change the way they choose to parent or what's going on in their lives. All it is doing is upsetting them and making them doubt themselves. And being a mum is like so much harder than any other career choice out there. Not that it's a career choice, but you know what I mean? Like, it's the hardest job you'll ever face. It's the hardest thing you'll ever face. We don't need extra judgment on top of us to make us doubt ourselves more.
I think it's just funny what you said. You're like, oh, it's not going to change your parenting. I'd love to know what goes through people's minds when they do comment or make, like,
I would love to know.
Do they suddenly think you're going to go, thank you so much for saying that. I never thought of that. I'm going to change everything I do now as a parent because of that one comment.
Do you remember when Lorgan was like, he must have been under 2, because I think I was pregnant with Caleb at the time, and I brought him to Tesco because I remember ranting to everybody. I was fuming coming out because he was this tiny little cute little munchkin, but he was trying to help me. But he was technically throwing the groceries up because he couldn't reach. So obviously, as a small person, you throw. He was passing them to me because he wanted to help me scanning them and stuff. But there was a lady, and just because you said that, it reminds me, there's this lady behind me giving out. And she was like, obviously thought I was younger than what I was. And because I never wear my rings because of my eczema and stuff, just judging. And she was like, oh, this is why youngsters shouldn't have children. And I was like, what?
Why?
And she reiterated, and I was like, firstly, just so you're aware, I'm in my 30s. I can't remember exactly the age, so I would have said the exact age, but I was like, I'm in my 30s and I'm married. I'm not young.
Not that
but
should make
thank
a
you for the
difference.
compliment.
Yeah.
And then, because I'm Sarky, so I'm going to do it. And then she was like, oh, well, you think you teach your child how to behave. He's just throwing things everywhere. And I literally turned around. And she thought for a split second I was giving it to her and I was giving her what she wanted.
Yeah.
Because I went down to his level and I was like, that lady's right. Mummy should teach you exactly how to act. And that is not it. If you want to have judgment, you keep it to yourself. Because if you're not helping, you're upsetting. And we don't do that. So we don't. And he was like, no, Mummy. And the lady just looking at me and I'm like, I taught him not to be you. And I carried on about my day. You know what I mean? Like, who are you to judge a small child doing his absolute best to put things up on the counter?
Yeah.
Because he can't reach. Like, what is going on in your life that's what you concerned yourself about? What is upsetting you? Do you want to have a chat? You know?
It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, it absolutely blows my mind because I'm like, it's not going to change how I parent. It's not. All it's doing is putting, like, as I said, for the rest of that day, I was so angry because I was like, she upset him too. She scared him too. He felt like he did something wrong for trying to help his mummy with groceries because she was having a bad day. So you didn't make me change my parenting style. You've upset my child and you've made me angry. That's all you've done. Shut your mouth.
Literally shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. If you have felt judged in your parenting style in any way, please know that as long as your child, as we said, is healthy, happy, and safe, you are doing an amazing job, and everybody else's opinion is not your business. And if you do want to reach out and have a chat or vent about it, our DMs are always open.
Always.
And yeah, we shall see you in the next episode. Don't forget, if you like this episode, to like, follow, share, subscribe. Bye.
Bye.